10. Mahbukari. UK-based TikToker Mahbukari, known to her followers only as Maya, is a wannabe celebrity who hatched a sick plot with a group of friends to murder her mother's ex-lover in 2022. It was all part of a plan to keep an affair that her mum had been having a secret. 23-year-old Mahek, with her 45-year-old mum, and 6 others have been charged in connection to the case. All 8 people are going to be put on trial for the murders of Mohammed Hashim Ijazuddin and Saqib Hussain, both of whom were 21 when they were ambushed in February of 2022 on a highway in the United Kingdom. They were driving near Leicester when their car crashed into a tree just after midnight. Moments before they crashed, Saqib phoned the police because there was a vehicle ramming into the back of them. The vehicle following them was filled with people hiding their faces under balaclavas. Prosecutors believe this was a deliberate murder. Wannabe celebrity Mahbukari, who had roughly 126,000 followers at TikTok at the time, lured the men with the help of her mum to a parking lot before the attack. They then followed the men, ran them off the road, and caused their car to hit a tree so hard it nearly split in half. During the police investigation, detectives learned that Saqib had been secretly dating Mahek's mother for the last 3 years, a woman over twice his age. They were having an affair even though the social media star's mum was married with children. When he threatened to come clean with what they were doing, the murder plot was hatched. 9. Jenny Alhassan. In April of 2022, Australian TikToker Jenny Alhassan was sprayed in the face with acid while live streaming outside the Old Town Hong Kong restaurant in Sydney. The 32-year-old streamer was live on social media when 3 men in masks leaped out of a black car and threw acid on her. She suffered major burns to her right eye, her forehead, and her neck. Jenny was transported to Royal North Shore Hospital by paramedics shortly after the assault. Her attackers have never been tracked down or identified, and yet Jenny believes she may know who's responsible. When she was in the middle of her live stream, a mysterious account began to ask her suspicious questions. Somebody kept inquiring about where she was, and they asked why she had sunglasses on at 11 o'clock at night. Jenny believes this mysterious person asking questions was the one who tracked her down on purpose to try and burn her face off. Even though the incident was traumatizing and scary, Jenny still believes she got off lucky. She says her daughter wasn't with her at the time, which was extremely fortunate. She was also wearing sunglasses for some strange reason in the middle of the night, which may have protected her from having her eyeballs burned out of their sockets by the acid. Jenny is a vague social media star who isn't really known outside of Australia. She used to be an in-law to one of the most notorious underworld figures in Sydney, convicted drug smuggler Stephen Elmer. Stephen was once married to Jenny's sister and was considered one of the most dangerous criminals in the country. He's now serving 24 years for drug smuggling, and he may have had something to do with the attack. 8. Nilsa Proant. In July of 2019, Nilsa Proant, the star of Floribama Shore, was arrested in Florida for flashing strangers and smashing a car window. The 25-year-old woman was dragged away by police in a white mini dress and matching sneakers after a night out got a little too graphic. She was partying in St. Petersburg and was on a balcony flashing people on the street below. She was causing such a scene that officers asked her politely to leave, but she refused. That was when she kicked the rear driver's side window of her friend's car until it shattered. At this point, police had no choice but to take her down to the station. She was arrested and booked on disorderly conduct and exposure of sexual organs. If you haven't heard of Nilsa Proant, whose real name is Nilsa Anderson, she was a regular on MTV. They did a spin-off of the Jersey Shore show called Floribama Shore, and Nilsa was one of the wannabe celebrities starring in it. At the time of her arrest, the reality show was in the middle of filming its 3rd season. Nilsa made bail at $400 and walked out of the station at about 6:30 a.m. the next day. 7. ASAP Rocky. Rocky Myers, better known as rapper ASAP Rocky, has been arrested in more countries than most people travel to in their lifetime. He's been apprehended in Europe and the United States, recently put in handcuffs at the Los Angeles airport just before police raided his home. However, his most recent arrest came in April of 2022. When the rapper landed at LAX from his vacation in Barbados, which he'd enjoyed with his much more famous celebrity girlfriend Rihanna, he was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. It had to do with a shooting that occurred in November of 2021 that left one man seriously injured. The unidentified man had allegedly gotten into an argument with Rocky in the Hollywood area. Things escalated and the argument quickly turned violent. The rapper then allegedly shot the man with his handgun before fleeing the scene. Following his arrest at LAX, Rocky spent only a couple of hours in jail before being released on a bail of $550,000. Months later, in August, he was formally charged with 2 counts of assault with a semi-automatic firearm. Yet, despite being charged with the crimes, the wealthy semi-celebrity has not seen any significant repercussions for shooting off a gun in public and almost killing someone. In 2019, Rocky was arrested in Sweden and was found guilty of assault. Apparently, he and 2 members of his security team beat up a man in the streets of Stockholm. They punched and kicked the victim before stabbing him. They reportedly cut him so badly he was left bleeding with multiple lacerations as well as a fractured rib. Again, Rocky escaped any serious repercussions regarding the crime in Stockholm because the Swedish government allowed him and his security guards to return home. He only had to pay $1,300 to the victim as compensation. What's even more strange is that during the brief time Rocky was in a Swedish jail, former President Donald Trump was all about getting him back to the US. He even tweeted #FreeRocky to his followers and threatened to impose economic sanctions against the whole country of Sweden if they didn't let the rapper go free. 6. Modboy. Ethan Bramble, known as Modboy, has tattoos covering about 98% of his body. They basically cover his entire face, and he even has them on his eyeballs. He was labeled a fugitive in 2019 after Victorian police in Australia announced a warrant for his arrest. Ethan was so bold that he commented on his arrest warrant, saying he'd never seen the man before in his life. He then taunted the police further in a live broadcast on Instagram, saying that there was no way he would turn himself in. The warrant had something to do with an assault, but the details are a little foggy. What we do know is that Ethan Bramble, aka Modboy, is one of the strangest wannabe celebrities in Australia. He began practicing body modification at the young age of 11. He stretched his ears and then became fascinated with tattoos. He has since spent over 60,000 Australian dollars, $37,740 modifying his body. He had his tongue split, his nostrils punched, he completely removed his belly button and snipped half his ears off. It doesn't look like Ethan Bramble ever got into serious trouble because of the arrest warrant. After he mocked the police, news outlets didn't care about the story and we never got any more details on it. However, in 2022, Ethan made headlines again for changing his attitude. Ethan recently became a father and decided to get laser surgery on his face to try and remove some of his tattoos. He admitted that all of his body modification may have been foolish and is now hoping to make a new life for himself. 8. Anka Kilcher. Anka Kilcher, an actress who appeared in the Yellowstone TV series for 4 episodes, was charged in California in 2022 for collecting disability payments illegally while she filmed the series. According to the California Department of Insurance, the 32-year-old woman was also charged with 2 felony counts of workers' compensation insurance fraud. The actress reported that she injured her neck and shoulder while she filmed the 2018 movie Dora and the Lost City of Gold. She also allegedly told doctors that she was too injured to take on any additional work. She claimed that she had to turn down new roles because of her injuries. However, Kilcher continued to collect her disability payments even while she did take on new acting jobs. She appeared in a highly successful TV series, even as she told doctors she was too injured to do so. She cashed out multiple paychecks from starring in movies and television shows, and she was milking disability payments at the same time. Surprisingly, an actor does not get the same kind of disability as most people. Between October of 2019 and September of 2021, she earned almost $100,000 in disability benefits. And while it's highly doubtful the actress will see any jail time, she could face criminal charges and she may be forced to give that money back. 4. Wannabe Weatherman. An aspiring meteorologist from Kentucky, someone described as a wannabe weatherman, was arrested in 2016 for trying to get attention. His name is Johnny Mullins, and he was arrested for starting fires so that he could get more engagement in his Facebook videos. He was charged with second-degree arson for the crime. Johnny just about started a forest fire, and it was all to get more likes on social media. The man had been posting weather videos on his Facebook page for years. He was trying to hone his meteorologist skills by chasing weather stories and reporting on them. It was all innocent enough until he started faking the weather to get more popular. He began the fire in eastern Kentucky, then filmed himself reporting it as if he were the first person on the scene. He claimed the whole area was going up in smoke and that there were helicopters dropping water throughout the region. He told his followers it was a very dangerous situation, but in reality, all he'd done was start a fire in the forest so he could film it. Police Chief James Stevens told the Associated Press that Johnny was a good boy, but he enjoyed the attention he got from his Facebook videos a little too much. In the end, the desire for fame pushed the wannabe weatherman to become an arsonist. 3. Laura Summers. Laura Summers is a wannabe celebrity who has an addiction to cosmetic surgery. News articles have called her the vainest woman in Britain. In 2011, 26-year-old Laura had already spent roughly $30,000 on cosmetic surgery. She had everything done, from chest augmentation to nose jobs. She received regular face fillers, Botox and collagen injections, and even had her ears pinned back twice. In 2019, the 34-year-old had spent a whopping $500,000 or more on surgery. Her ultimate goal is supposedly to look like Kim Kardashian. Laura has got multiple facelifts, at least 8 surgeries done to her chest, and she has no plans on stopping anytime soon. She's had at least 50 operations in her lifetime and says she's always dreamed of being a Victoria's Secret model. However, after all these years and all the money she spent on surgeries, that dream still hasn't come true. Laura's only claim to fame is her addiction to surgery and her brief time on X on the beach. 2. Lars. A California-based desperate wannabe social media influencer with roughly 400,000 Instagram followers refuses to speak with his family. Lars, as he's known, recently appeared on the Australian radio show Kyle and Jackie O. Apparently, Lars told them that he no longer talks to his family because they aren't famous enough for him. He claims that he's more famous than everyone he's related to, and that he can't talk to anyone unless they have the same number of followers on social media as he does. When asked if he misses his family, the wannabe star responded that his famous friends are better company. He said that sometimes he misses his relatives, but then he'll talk to someone important like Cardi B instead, and that makes him feel better. He even told the talk show host that he blocked all 9 of his siblings on social media and will only talk to them if they get more followers. If you aren't sure who Lars is, you're not the only one. He reached the peak of fame in 2020 after he licked a toilet bowl on TikTok. He was then admitted to the hospital with COVID-19 after the incident. He was also one of the individuals behind a fad during the pandemic that saw young people licking ice cream tubs at the grocery store. 1. ViTube. A Brazilian influencer who goes by the name ViTube was recently wheeled through a Portuguese airport in 2022 because she had apparently held in her farts for too long. The influencer's real name is Vitória de Felice Moraes, and she was 21 years old when she visited the Rock in Rio Lisboa music festival in Portugal with her boyfriend. It was during the festival that she started to experience significant pain in her abdomen. The pain coincided with holding in her farts for an extended period of time. Moraes was too embarrassed to pass gas in front of her boyfriend, so she held it in until it hurt. She was so uncomfortable that she had to be pushed through the airport in a wheelchair. In the end, all she needed to do was fart. The influencer, who's famous for bikini photos and luxury travel shoots, was completely fine in the end, but it could have been a lot worse. Doctors say holding in your farts is extremely unhealthy. The gas can be absorbed into the bloodstream if held for too long, and then they can be exhaled out of a person's mouth. She may have been holding in her farts, but she was running the risk of farting out of her mouth. Eight. Maria del Carmen Rendon. Viral TikTok footage that circulated in 2021 shows a police officer threatening to smash the window of a woman's SUV in Wake Forest, North Carolina. In the video, the officer can be heard warning 35-year-old Maria Del Carmen Rendon to get out of the car and counting down from 5. When he got to 1 and she was still in the vehicle, he shattered the window with his baton and arrested her. Based on the TikTok clip alone, it seemed to many like a classic case of an officer acting needlessly aggressive toward a motorist during a traffic stop. But the Wake Forest Police Department said that the video didn't tell the whole story. According to the agency's version of events, officers first encountered Rendon at the scene of a suspected felony assault between 2 teens. During the investigation, she became uncooperative and fled the scene with the assault suspect and 3 others. While driving, she nearly hit an officer, ran a stop sign, and almost collided with a tractor-trailer. Describing the situation as entirely avoidable, Wake Forest Police Chief Jeff Leonard said that officers were forced to react to Rendon's reckless behavior and her refusal to exit the vehicle. He accused her of endangering the lives of her passengers and other drivers and resisting the police at every turn. Rendon was charged with resisting arrest, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, driving with a revoked license, and careless and reckless driving. 7. Karen Garner. In June of 2020, Walmart employees in Loveland, Colorado saw an elderly woman leave the store without paying for her merchandise. They confronted 73-year-old Karen Garner and found $14 worth of unpaid items in her possession, including a t-shirt, candy, and soda. The workers refused to let the senior citizen pay for the goods and took the items back, then called the police. Garner suffers from dementia and a sensory aphasia, which affects a person's language comprehension. While responding to the call from Walmart, Officer Austin Hopp found her picking wildflowers on the side of the road. In a body cam video of the encounter, Hopp can be heard telling Garner to stop as he approaches her on foot. She looked back at him with a confused expression, then continued to walk while clutching her freshly picked wildflowers. Almost immediately, Hopp grabbed Garner's arms from behind, then took the 80-pound woman to the ground and handcuffed her. Karen cried out with a terrified expression on her face and repeatedly said that she was going home and didn't do anything. Hopp and another officer, Daria Jalali, hogtied the elderly woman and forced her into a squad car. A bystander questioned their aggressive behavior and was told to go away and that the situation was none of their business. A police station surveillance camera later captured Hopp, Jalali, and Officer Tyler Blackett laughing and fist-bumping each other while reviewing body cam footage of the arrest. Hopp can be heard describing Garner as senile and admitting that he dislocated her shoulder and failed to administer her Miranda rights. All 3 officers resigned when the case fell under public scrutiny. Hopp was sentenced to 5 years in prison for assault after taking a plea deal, and Jalali received a 45-day jail sentence for misconduct and failing to intervene on or report the use of excessive force. Garner was left with lasting physical damage, including limited use of her left arm. Her family sued the city and the officers involved on her behalf for using excessive force and failing to provide medical care, and received a $3 million settlement. 6. Robert Cortez. In a bid to strengthen its relationship with the community, the Los Angeles Police Department sponsored a movie night in Harbor City Park during the summer of 2022. But the event failed to live up to its purpose when footage of officers forcefully arresting a young man went viral on social media. A 19-year-old volunteer named Robert Cortez was setting up chairs for moviegoers when he saw officers detaining his friend on suspicion of having a gun. He started recording the arrest on his phone and was rushed by an officer, who later told the young man's mother that he thought the object in Robert's hand might be a gun. A lengthy struggle ensued as the scene erupted into chaos. Footage captured by Robert's mother, Rochelle Gonzalez, shows the officer and Cortez entangled in a physical struggle before he's ultimately slammed to the ground and taken into custody. During the video, Gonzalez can be heard asking officers why her son was detained. She then pleaded with Robert to calm down and stop resisting the officer, who was attempting to subdue the teen. As the footage shows, Cortez repeatedly asked why he was being detained but received no answer. Although Gonzalez encouraged her son to comply with the police, she and many others disapproved of the officer's reaction to Cortez filming his friend's arrest. No guns were found on the young men, but Robert was charged with resisting arrest. The LAPD launched a use of force investigation. In the meantime, Gonzalez called for better de-escalation training for police officers. 5. Candy Alicon. Small business owner Sophia Romo was about to head home from her adult boutique in Houston one day in 2022 when an employee told her there was a thief in the store. She reviewed surveillance footage and saw a woman stuffing merchandise into her purse. When the employee told Romo that the woman refused to give the items back, she took the situation into her own hands. Romo followed the sticky-fingered shopper onto a public bus, where she filmed herself confronting the suspect. The woman, later identified as Candy Alicon, agreed to pay for the stolen goods when the bus got to her house. In the meantime, Romo went through her purse and found around $600 worth of merchandise, along with the device for removing security tags. She proceeded to follow Alicon on foot and called the police. The video ends with Houston police handcuffing the suspect, who was charged with theft. After posting the footage, Romo said that other business owners reached out to her and said they also had issues with Alicon, who was on probation for a previous theft charge at the time of her arrest. Romo admitted that her unconventional way of addressing the situation was dangerous and that it could have quickly turned bad. But she was fed up with an ongoing theft problem at her store and decided to make an example out of Alicon in hopes of discouraging others from stealing. 4. Randall Worcester. One morning in August of 2022, Crawford County, Arkansas deputies Zach King and Levy White and Mulberry police officer Tel Riddle arrested 27-year-old Randall Worcester for allegedly threatening a convenience store employee. They didn't seem to notice that a bystander was recording them on her phone as they held the man to the ground and brutally beat him. In the 34-second clip, which appeared on social media later that day, one policewoman can be seen slamming Worcester's face into the pavement and punching him in the head multiple times, while another officer kneed him in the side and back. In the meantime, it appears as though Worcester is trying to shield himself from the beatdown. At some point, a woman shouts to the officers to stop beating him and says that he needs his medicine. After noticing that the incident was being captured on camera, an officer orders the person to stop filming and the video ends. The lawmen claim that before the filming began, Worcester body slammed a deputy and bit and spat on them as they tried to take him into custody. They charged him with a slew of crimes including battery, assault, resisting arrest, criminal trespass, criminal mischief, terroristic threatening, and more. But even in cases where a suspect is being non-compliant or dangerous, it's not customary for police to strike someone in the head repeatedly as a way to get them under control. Numerous experts said that the use of force in the video seems excessive, and that the officers don't appear to be using accepted techniques for handcuffing a suspect. Shortly after the disturbing footage emerged, deputies King and White were suspended from their jobs, and Officer Riddle was also put on leave from his position with the Mulberry Police Department. The incident is being investigated by the Arkansas State Police. Worcester bonded out of jail and filed a federal lawsuit against the agencies and individuals involved in the horrifying assault. His lawyers maintain that their client was cooperative with the officers. According to Worcester's version of events, he immediately handed over a small pocket knife when they asked if he had any weapons, and was unarmed when an officer suddenly tried to handcuff him behind his back. The lawsuit alleges that the officer failed to give him a reason for why he was being handcuffed and that nobody administered his Miranda rights. The complaint also criticizes the officers for beating Worcester without first trying to subdue him with pepper spray or with a taser. 3. Angel Guiche. In response to a spike in homicides in 2022, Atlanta police stepped up their patrol of the city's parks. An officer encountered 34-year-old Angel Guiche and another individual at Shady Valley Park during after hours. He attempted to issue citations to the pair for being there past the 11 p.m. closing time. Footage that appeared on social media and sparked widespread outrage shows the officer telling Guiche that she would be arrested if she refused to sign the citation. During the exchange, Guiche asked the officer for his name and badge number, which he provided. The confrontation ended with police forcefully taking the woman into custody after telling her repeatedly to put her hands behind her back. In response to the viral video, the Atlanta Police Department released full body cam footage of the interaction between Guiche and the officer. The agency claimed that Guiche refused to sign the citation, which is considered reasonable cause for arrest, and accused her of needlessly escalating the situation. Angel's lawyer Lee Merritt told local station WGCL that his client did not refuse to sign the citation, but that she simply asked for more information, which the officer refused to provide. Merritt blamed the officer for the situation becoming physical, alleging that he quickly became agitated and resorted to the use of force. Guiche spent the night in jail and was left traumatized by the ordeal, according to Merritt, who's challenging the APD in court with allegations of excessive use of force. The matter is ongoing. 2. Justified force. Hundreds of Purdue students protested in early 2022 when footage of an arrest on the university's campus in Indiana went viral. The video shows an officer on top of a student with his arm near the man's neck, while the suspect repeatedly yells, "You're choking me." A bystander can be heard telling the officer to remove his elbow. The officer was put on leave while authorities investigated the incident. Madison County Prosecutor Rodney J. Cummings oversaw the case and was tasked with deciding whether to criminally charge either party involved in the case. In his findings, he revealed that police reported to the scene after receiving a call about a man refusing to let a woman drive away in her vehicle. Responding officers found the suspect standing outside his girlfriend's vehicle. He told them that his girlfriend was acting crazy, but was found to have her phone and wallet in his possession. The man allegedly refused to comply with repeated orders to step away from the vehicle and resisted the officer's attempt to handcuff him. He continued to fight and was ultimately taken to the ground. According to the report, the girlfriend started recording the viral video after the suspect was restrained, failing to show what led up to the officer's decision to pin the man down. Cummings ruled that the use of force was reasonable and that the student's claim that he acted in self-defense was unjustified. He acknowledged that there are times when police abuse their power, but said that the incident was not an example of it, and that the public's response to the situation was disappointing. 1. Antoine Sims. Police in Kennesaw, Georgia, responded to an unusual report in August of 2022 when a man called 911 over his dissatisfaction with his McDonald's order. They arrived at the restaurant to find 24-year-old Antoine Sims accusing the manager of serving cold fries, handling food without gloves, and failing to give him a receipt. Prior to the officer's arrival, the argument had erupted into a shouting match. Body cam footage captured an officer's conversation with Sims, who described his fries as lukewarm but not hot. He claimed that the manager got confrontational and told him to leave the property when he requested fresh fries and asked for a receipt for the second time. The manager accused Sims of being aggressive and refusing to leave the property and wanted him removed for trespassing. At the manager's request, the officer issued Sims a criminal trespass notice, which does not come with criminal charges. Just when it seemed like the situation was almost resolved, the police ran the disgruntled customer's ID and discovered a warrant for murder dating back to 2018, something that law enforcement had somehow missed until then, even though Sims had been arrested since the murder and was wearing an ankle monitor. He led the officers on a 20-minute foot chase before being apprehended and taken to the Cobb County Jail, where he awaits the next step in his case.
Number 10. Subway Kicker. In 2021, the NYPD released surveillance footage of a man drop-kicking a woman down a subway station escalator and calmly walking away. The footage shows the perpetrator pushing his way past the victim at the Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center stop in Brooklyn. He then suddenly turned around and put his foot straight to her chest, sending her tumbling all the way to the bottom of the moving stairs. In a classic example of a New Yorker telling it like it is, the 32-year-old woman explained to ABC 7 News that she told a man to say "excuse me" and that it's the New York way. He reportedly said, "I did," then turned around, kicked her, and carried on with his day. The victim was injured, but she declined medical attention. She said that the incident traumatized her and that she was left covered in cuts and bruises. With help from the public, police identified the suspect as 32-year-old Bradley K. Hill and charged him with assault as well as attempted assault. Number 9. Angry Arsonist. Firefighters in Del City, Oklahoma, responded to a call about a burning residence one day in 2019 and arrived to find the home of Christopher Bottoms fully engulfed in flames. As they worked to extinguish the blaze, neighbor Annie Durham told local news station KFOR that the home was a drug house. She said that she learned of the fire when she saw smoke coming from the residence. The fire completely destroyed the house and everything in it. Investigators soon learned that Bottoms and Durham were entangled in a years-long conflict and that their contentious relationship had even landed them in court a few times. By then, Durham had given different stories of her whereabouts when the fire broke out, claiming in one version that she wasn't even home. After noticing that she had a surveillance camera on the outside of her house, detectives asked her for the footage, but she was suspiciously reluctant to hand it over, claiming that the camera was turned off at the time. However, the police got their hands on the video, which showed Durham firing 2 shots into Bottom's house. She then returned inside briefly and came back out with a flaming rag, which she threw directly into a doorway. She was consequently charged with second-degree arson for the crime. Speaking with KFOR, Bottoms acknowledged that the feud between him and Durham went both ways, and that he wasn't always the best neighbor. And while he never thought Durham would go as far as she did, he said that he forgave her. Bottoms also admitted to struggling with addiction and having shady guests in and out of his home over the years. After suddenly becoming homeless due to the fire, he checked himself into rehab. Number 8. Family abducted at gunpoint. In September of 2022, a family of 4 vanished without a trace in Merced, California. Included among the missing were 27-year-old Jasleen Kaur, her partner 36-year-old Jasdeep Singh, the couple's infant and the baby's uncle, 39-year-old Amandeep Singh. Sheriff's deputies first learned of their disappearance after discovering Amandeep's truck on fire, and they received a report from concerned family members who were unable to get in touch with the victims. Surveillance footage from the family's trucking business showed an armed man ushering the adult male victims into a pickup truck with their hands bound behind their backs. Moments later, he forced Jasleen Kaur and her child into the vehicle and drove away. Nothing appeared to be stolen from the business, ruling out robbery as a motive. Relatives of 48-year-old Jesus Manuel Salgado told authorities that he had admitted to being involved in the kidnapping. By the time police went to his home to apprehend him, he had attempted to take his own life. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Shortly after Salgado's arrest, a farmhand discovered the victim's remains in a remote almond orchard roughly 30 miles, 48 kilometers from where they disappeared. Family members told investigators that Salgado was a former employee of their trucking business and that they were embroiled in a long-standing dispute that had gotten pretty ugly. Salgado now faces 4 counts of first-degree murder. His brother, Albert Salgado, was also arrested in connection with the horrific crime, but law enforcement has not disclosed the nature of his alleged role in it. Number 7. Doorbell camera abduction. Las Vegas police were baffled on New Year's Day in 2020 when a resident's doorbell camera captured footage of a woman in ripped clothing running up to their porch in the middle of the night. She banged frantically on the door while looking over her shoulder at a car in the road. Moments later, a man emerged from the vehicle and sprinted over to her. He grabbed the woman by her hair and threw her onto the ground. He then proceeded to kick her in the abdomen before sending her tumbling down the porch steps. The man can be heard ordering her to get in the car as he tried pulling her off the ground. He asks her, "Why would you do that?" as he yanked her to her feet and continued to yell at her. The woman pleaded with her attacker to stop as he dragged her back to the car and drove away. The footage picked up audio of the woman calling the man Darius, but the homeowner didn't recognize the pair, and neither did the police, who appealed to the public for help identifying the people in the video. Various tips led them to 23-year-old Darnell Rogers. According to an arrest report, Rogers and his girlfriend were driving home from a New Year's Eve party with their child in the back seat when they began to argue. It became heated, so the woman pulled over and ran to the house for help. Rogers told police that he was drunk at the time and said that he was worried about his girlfriend leaving him. He pleaded guilty to coercion and domestic battery and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. In deciding his punishment, the judge considered the wishes of the victim, Taryn Kuyar, who asked for leniency. By then, the couple had broken up but still had a child together, and Kuyar claimed that Rogers was a changed man and was an outstanding father. Number 6. Manhattan jewelry heist. In what's been described as a Hollywood-style robbery, a trio of thieves held up a high-end Manhattan jewelry store in broad daylight in 2019 and made off with $4 million worth of stolen goods. The three stylishly dressed bandits went to Avian & Co., where celebrities like Justin Bieber and Nicki Minaj are known to shop, posing as customers who were interested in buying rings. After being buzzed inside and pretending to shop for a few minutes, they pulled guns on the employees and bound them with zip ties and duct tape. They then proceeded to fill a duffel bag with jewelry from around the store. The workers managed to free themselves after the robbers fled and were thankfully uninjured. Surveillance footage captured during the heist was clear enough for police to identify two of the three suspects using facial recognition technology. Authorities captured 27-year-old Pedro Davia in Pasco County, Florida, a few weeks after the robbery. They apprehended 39-year-old J. Sean Sutton at a hotel in North Carolina the following month. While details about the outcomes of the cases involving Davia and a third unnamed suspect remain vague, Sutton pleaded guilty to the robbery and is due to be sentenced in November of 2022. He faces up to 14 years in federal prison for the crime. Number 5. Kidnapped on camera. 22-year-old Carlesha Freeland Gaither was walking home in Philadelphia one night in 2014 when a stranger snatched her off the street and forced her into his car. Harrowing footage of the abduction showed the young woman trying desperately to fight off her kidnapper as he overpowered her. During the struggle, she dropped her glasses and phone on the sidewalk, and they were left behind. A multi-state manhunt ensued over the next few days as leads began to trickle in. The first clue to Carlesha's whereabouts came when a man used her ATM card in Aberdeen, Maryland. Soon after that, a woman living in nearby Havre de Grace found a bag containing garbage and a receipt in her driveway. Sensing that it might have something to do with the case, she reported the discovery. Surveillance footage from the store listed on the receipt confirmed that the suspected kidnapper had been there. In the meantime, ATF agents who were investigating the suspect for other reasons recognized his car in the video of Carlesha's abduction and identified him as 37-year-old Delvin Barnes. They tracked Barnes through a GPS device that was installed on his car due to his bad credit and arrested him in a parking lot. At the time, he was under suspicion for kidnapping another young woman. He took a plea deal and admitted to both crimes in exchange for a 35-year sentence. Carlesha was rescued by police and was returned to her family following the incident. Number 4. A foiled plot. In 2016, a pair of would-be robbers cleverly bypassed the alarm system at a bank in Praia Grande, Brazil, by wrapping themselves in tinfoil from head to toe. However, they failed to notice the bank's surveillance camera, which captured their every move and alerted employees at a central security office of the attempted robbery in progress. Police were called and the thieves fled the scene empty-handed, leaving behind a drill and some other tools that investigators believe they planned to break into the main safe with. One suspect, who was apprehended in a wooded area nearby, had a history of robbery arrests. When the story broke, police were still looking for the other suspect and believed that one or two more people may have acted as lookouts. Surprisingly, this wasn't the first time a Brazilian robber donned themselves in aluminium foil for criminal purposes. In a previous incident, a separate group of ATM robbers did the same thing to avoid setting off an alarm that was activated by body heat. Number 3. Banking machine blowup. 29-year-old Dylan John Lewis was described as an absolute total moron in 2014 when his miserably botched attempt at robbing an ATM in Darwin, Australia, was captured on camera. The New Zealand national approached a money machine at a bank in the suburb of Wannabe during the early morning hours and stuck a popsicle stick in the money slot to hold it open. He then took a gas canister that was rigged to a vacuum cleaner hose and placed a hose over the opening before releasing the valve and lighting a match. Naturally, an explosion ensued, and Lewis was blown backwards about 6.5 feet, 2 meters. His hat and shoes flew off his body before he landed on the pavement. Lewis stuck his hand into the slot to see if his plan worked, but fled the scene without any money, discarding his explosive device in a bush along the way. He suffered from some burns and shrapnel wounds, but was lucky his injuries weren't worse or fatal. The law soon caught up with him and charged him with arson. After being processed and released, he fled to New Zealand. Family members eventually convinced Lewis to return to Australia so he could face the charge. In court, his lawyer painted a sympathetic picture of a depressed and desperate meth addict who thought he had nothing to live for. On the other hand, prosecutors focused on what they described as a blatant disregard for public safety. Lewis pleaded guilty and received a 2-year prison sentence with all but 8 months suspended. Number 2. Caught red-handed. In 2011, 21-year-old Stephen Daniel failed to double-check his surroundings before robbing a convenience store in Snellville, Georgia, with a police officer standing just a few feet behind him. When he placed a bag on the counter and demanded money, the manager complied and started laughing. Within moments, everyone in the store burst into laughter, which can be faintly heard in surveillance footage of the hilarious robbery gone wrong. The officer, Lieutenant B.W. Brown, promptly arrested Daniel for the attempted robbery. He later told local station WSB-TV that officers had spoken with the suspect just minutes earlier outside the store. Daniel had apparently asked him for a ride somewhere, so it was especially surprising that he didn't realize it was a bad time to commit a robbery. Brown said that in 34 years of working in law enforcement, he had never encountered a situation like it before. In what he described as the easiest arrest of his career, he could tell what Daniel was about to do as he approached the counter with the bag in his hand. Brown thought, surely he's not dumb enough to do that with me standing right behind him. However, he continued to try and rob the place, and as he turned to leave, Brown was waiting there to arrest him. Number 1. A transparent thief. The clerk at the Circle K gas station in Belleville, Illinois, was extremely confused when a robber entered the store one morning in 2014 with a clear plastic bag over his head and demanded money. The thief also used a plastic bag to cover a sharp object in his hand. He made off with around $60, and because his disguise wasn't very convincing, it didn't take long for police to identify him as Patrick McGuire, a man in his late 40s with an extensive criminal history. McGuire's mile-long rap sheet already consisted of 14 felony convictions and 30 misdemeanors. He had also been on felony probation for his latest offense for just a few weeks when the robbery took place. While the rest of the world got a laugh out of the surveillance footage showing McGuire's not-so-clever disguise, federal authorities prosecuted the case aggressively. They pushed for a heavy punishment as part of an initiative to crack down on armed robberies in the region. The career criminal was ultimately sentenced to 15 years behind bars for his crimes. Would you rather be criminally charged for making a threat you didn't really mean during a moment of frustration, or suffer the embarrassment of appearing in widely circulated footage of your friend's shoplifting arrest? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.